And welcome back to Pastor Plek's podcast. I am your host, Chris Plek. So glad to have you here on the official Pastor Plek's podcast. And with me in studio is none other than Mrs. Katie Sass, who after a long hiatus is back in action. She took 2 weeks off.
It was glorious.
All right. And then also one of our church pillars, a woman who holds up the church with her bare hands on her shoulders, like controlling finances, managing a lot of scheduling that I have, and meeting with people to do ministry over and over and over again, and being a well-thought, sensitive, sweet person to everyone she encounters. This is Nicole Super Trooper. How are you doing, Nicole?
Oh, I'm doing good. Thanks for throwing my fantasy football name in.
Yeah, and the Super Troopers did get destroyed by me this past week, and I don't feel bad about it at all.
No, it could have been worse.
It could have been, but I did take you out. We have a staff fantasy football league, and I'm doing very well. And Super Troopers over here, not so much.
Do you want a golden star?
Yes, I do. But we're not here to talk about fantasy football. We are here to talk about singleness with Nicole. And Katie, one of the things that we saw in our we did a podcast earlier about Jesus. I believe you can heal my help my unbelief. And so one of the things that somebody wrote was, I believe you can heal my singleness, help my unbelief. And do you feel that singleness is a disease?
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
well,
it is not.
Well, why would somebody say that?
Well, you're probably just not having enough fun as a single person.
Okay, so let's bring our single person in. Single person, Nicole, talk to us about, is singleness a disease?
No, it's not.
Are you enjoying being single?
I am now.
Yeah. All right, talk to us about that, because there was a season.
You had a really good
season.
Perspective shift.
Yeah.
I did. Yes, that's true.
What was the perspective shift?
So for a really long time, I think a lot of people my age feel this way. I was just really upset that I wasn't in a relationship, and like I had never had really any success with dating, and I felt really lonely, and I was honestly like mostly just like throwing a pity party for myself all the time.
Like it sounds like when you're talking, you're like 55 or something. So, but you're in your 20s.
I am in my 20s.
So like, I don't want to, I mean, not that I don't want to,
I would say like this is how I felt a lot in I felt this way a lot in like high school and college, and even like pretty recently. Like the perspective shift happened like maybe a couple months ago.
Okay, yeah, and I think that you were in my office at one point in tears. So let's talk about that.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, so let's talk about what was driving you to tears, and then what the Lord's been doing really to kind of convince you that you can be content in any and every situation.
Yeah, so I think it was just the like overwhelming feeling of loneliness, or like not being enough, like good enough for someone to love. And what really, like what the like core issue is there is that like my worth doesn't come from some guy choosing to love me. It comes from God's love for me.
Jesus chose to love you.
And Jesus chose
to love you. So it
me.
actually does come from some guy trying to love you, or choosing to love you, but it is Jesus. So it's way better than any dude.
Jesus is God, so it
works out.
It's different. Yeah, it works out. And just like kind of being content in that. Like I think like singleness can be used for some really great stuff, but like really to truly be content in singleness, you have to understand that your worth comes from God and the love that God has for you, and not necessarily how much other people love you.
So let's go back to before there was Katie Sass, there was Katie Work. Let's talk to Katie Work for a moment. In your single days.
Get in character.
And Katie Work was a character. I mean, she was the one you would talk about, like, oh my gosh, we met a really crazy lost person. This is gonna be really exciting.
You used to introduce me as the hot mess.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, she's a hot mess.
I did. Like she'd be sitting right there and she's like,
yeah, and I was just like, I literally can hear you. So it was great.
But you were a hot mess. And I would say there was a part of your life where you were pursuing your core identity was in being loved by another man, and I just remember there was couple relationships before Ryan where I was just like, oh man, I hope to God this doesn't work out.
Yeah. And they actually weren't even like real relationships. They were like flirting, sort of like, oh, we kind of liked each other, or I liked them. I never actually had a boyfriend before
Wait,
Ryan.
hold on.
The
Jehovah's Witness guy?
You dated a Jehovah's Witness guy?
He didn't really practice. He just called himself a Jehovah's Witness. He just didn't go to church. So, okay, before, as a Christian, I mean, when I became a Christian.
That was pre-Christian.
Oh,
that was pre-Christian Katie.
Oh, gosh. Okay, so hold on. Let me figure out which Katie Warwick we're talking about. Are we talking about Katie Warwick or non-Christian?
Pre-Christian Katie Warwick first.
Oh. Okay.
Because I feel like that's the one that most people listening, well, I don't know, actually our audience is probably all over the place, but a lot of people can identify with the pre-Christian Katie Warwick, who was dating the Jehovah's Witness guy who was not really Jehovah's Witness, but he at least claimed it.
Yeah. So I moved in with him. I lost my virginity to him. I thought I was going to marry him. I was just enamored with him in this relationship. And so when it ended, I was like, I don't even know who I am anymore.
Hold on. So not that I need to get into your virginity, but like we knew you before you started dating him.
No.
No. Okay, so like, was it on pause or something? Because why would you come to parties and stuff?
Okay, so we
broke up.
We broke up.
Right. Okay. So
then I was kind of just like making out with my neighbor. So this is really great. I'm very a positive influence. So yeah. I was lonely, and my neighbor, he was like kind of cute. I mean, he wasn't like super hot or anything, but he was someone to make out with whenever I was just bored.
We've all been there. All
and so then he fell in love with me, and that sounded really like cocky or conceited, but he told me, he's like, I love you. And I was like, shoot, this is not where I thought this was going to go. Thought we were just going to like mess around. But so then I had to end that. And then I became a Christian.
And then you got back with the JW guy.
No.
Wait, at some point you got back with the JW.
No, I didn't.
So we met you. You were with the Jehovah's Witness guy.
Yes.
You broke up. You hooked up. Then you became a Christian.
Yes.
Did you ever want to get back together with the?
Oh yeah.
Who?
So
oil field guy. Didn't you date an oil field guy from Midland? Abilene something? Anything?
Abilene.
Midland?
No.
Cody's skeptical.
We have
I feel
our
like
live studio audience is challenging Katie's dating record.
Cody, I'm about to tell your dirty laundry, okay?
All right, so
I remember when Cody Sparks used to sneak into my DMs. So don't even like
direct messages. Yeah. That's a Gen Z term. Slide in my DMs.
I remember when I first became a Christian, and Jordan Vera told me, she's like, "Oh, don't respond to him. Don't respond to him." And I was like, "Okay."
All right. So wow. All right. So
all right.
So Nicole, talk to me about like when you hear that story of like that's probably a typical young adult experience. Tell me the flip side. Tell me your young adult experience that wasn't just like casual hookups and hangouts.
Yeah, it was not that at all. In high school, I was very set on waiting until marriage. I still am.
Why?
I made that decision before I was a Christian, so I'm not even really sure why.
Okay, you're just like, I'm not gonna be like those people.
But then I became a Christian, and I was like, oh, God tells us to do this anyway. That's great.
That worked out for you. All right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I didn't really date in high school a whole lot. I mean, I wanted to, but it happened with one guy, and it lasted for like 2 months, and I was like, nah, this isn't it.
How did you know?
He was just really disrespectful. And I guess I just have a lot of like self-respect, and
I do have a lot of
really
self-respect.
Good. You
do.
Want to be treated well, and so when a guy
train people how they treat you, and you do it well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Thanks. So yeah, that didn't work out, and then in college, I went on a lot of dates, but never really had any like serious relationships.
Okay. Yeah.
So-
So you were like, there wasn't anything physical happening. There wasn't anything like emotionally happening.
No, emotionally there were things happening. Like I was really into one guy, and we like went on like lots of dates over the course of a couple of years, and he ended up dating a couple of my friends, and it was really weird. And
So how does that go when you're dating a guy and then he's dating your friend?
it's not fun.
Um,
It's actually incredibly hurtful.
so, but
And-
is it fair?
Is it? I mean, I don't know.
On whose part?
Well, I
Yeah,
mean, like,
like-
because I feel like this is the part where in dating, right? It's like all's fair in love and war, and this might be in the love category. Everything's fair, and I think we like this is what happens about when it's why you guard your heart above all else, because if you don't, then you can't celebrate when someone's dating the guy you just dated.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that part was really, really hard. And thankfully, I mean, some of the other girls he dated were like actually like really close friends of mine.
They were or were not.
They were. Actually, they still are. I'm still really good friends with them.
And did they kick him to the curb too?
No.
Oh, they married him.
No, he's actually not married. He's dating a different friend of mine.
So eventually, he kicked them to the curb.
I'm not really sure like who ended what. Like maybe they did break up with him, but it wasn't because of me or anything. Like it was just.
So
for
how did
their
you
own
handle it? I
reasons.
mean, what was your like reaction? Like, oh, that's so great. I'm so glad you guys went to that restaurant that we went to several times.
There was a lot of that outwardly, yeah. And then inwardly, a constant struggle to continue to love my friend and, I mean, love this guy in the way that I was supposed to as a Christian, but also, like, kind of, like, not gonna lie, hating him a little bit.
Okay.
That's valid.
Yeah.
And being really hurt. Like, I've had a lot of hurt that I've had to work through over the past, like, year and a half.
Mhm.
And just, like, choosing to forgive people or like forgive myself or just accept the way that things turned out just because it didn't work out really the way that I wanted it to.
All right. So when are you in panic or when did you get to panic mode still in your 20s, or are you beyond panic mode when it comes to like, hey, the last train's leaving, you know, all the normal guys that are still in their 20s are moved on and now I have to settle for somebody who's weird in their 30s?
So when I was 25, I remember my 25th birthday because that was the day when I hit panic mode.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, it was pretty terrible. It was also in the middle of COVID too.
Oof.
So I was like living alone and I was in my apartment and
So that means you're like
COVID was
27.
happening. Yeah, I'm almost 28 actually. Yeah,
Can I eye roll at your youngness?
sure.
Okay, eye rolling. I didn't get married till 34. So now, granted, I know it's different with a guy. Got it. But still, like at some point, you got to recognize that there aren't just, you know, dirt bags out there beyond 30.
That's true. I agree with that.
Because I just wasn't mature enough in my 20s that you would ever want to marry me. And
yeah.
and
I
it took
can
me a
see
while.
how that would be possible.
What are you saying?
I
No, go.
It's not anything about you. I just really do think that there's a lot of like I'm more mature now than I was when I was 25.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sure I'll grow even more by the time I'm 35.
Sure.
You know,
And I think I got rid of a lot of my anger rage issues in my 20s.
that's good.
That doesn't mean I don't get angry, but it was like I was just so much testosterone, so much adrenaline, so much like
Yeah.
and now it's I don't want to say I don't care, but I just don't care about a lot of things.
Yeah.
I mean, Ryan was 27 when we got married.
He was
And
way
so
more
that's
mature than I
like-
ever was, though.
But I mean, that's close to 30. You know, like I think it's. Anyways, I guess that doesn't matter.
I do think that everyone matures at their own rates and stuff, you know, but sometimes it does take being well into your 30s. I'm not really afraid of dating a guy who is way older than me. I almost would prefer that.
Yeah.
But
You're like a very
Old
you're like an
soul.
old soul.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. We're kind of in the young soul category.
Yeah. Can I actually touch on something you said earlier?
Yeah.
It really kind of hit me. So whenever you said you had this fear when you're as a single person that you're just never going to be enough for someone,
Mhm.
I just need to clarify that even when you're married, you're not enough for your husband.
Yeah.
You're never enough for anyone because only God, only Christ is enough for us. And so that I struggled hardcore.
How
with
did
that.
you, now, let's, because I feel like that is such a powerful statement, now backed up by how many years of marriage?
It'll be 7 in
So
December.
it's 7 years of marriage backed up, from going from your single past to your now married current, 7 years of marriage. How have you seen like you weren't enough, but then that became okay?
So I had to realize that the only one enough for Ryan is Jesus. And so the first couple of years, I really struggled with like trying to be enough for Ryan. And
Well,
it really
when you
like
say
affected
that, what do you mean? What do you mean?
like
looking the right part?
satisfy him in every single aspect of life. Like always making him happy, always being the one that can make him feel loved. Like, and I just, whenever I was single, I did have that idea of like, when I get married, that means that I'm enough for someone. I'm finally enough for a man.
Yeah.
And you never will be. And that's not to hate on marriage. That's not to hate on Ryan at all. That is the reality of our depravity, is we will never be enough to fully satisfy
Your theological soundness is powerful.
anyone, because only Jesus can. And when I
Yeah.
realized that only Jesus can satisfy my husband, that's when I was fully able to rest in who I was made to be and how I could properly love him and serve him and respect him, because I was respecting him based on whether or not he saw me as enough.
So what? Yeah. So can you give me practically what changed? Like I made dinner and then I didn't worry about it. I just threw it on. What? We went on a date, or the way you look, or the way that you. What?
Gosh,
so
I'm trying
does
to.
that make sense? It gets because I want.
Okay, I'll just go to a really deep one.
Yeah. Okay.
Sexually.
All right.
Okay, so as a woman, your husband is a sinner.
Okay.
Okay, so your husband will have needs above and beyond what you can provide. So you're like say maybe your husband struggles with porn.
Okay.
So that is not because of you.
Yeah.
That is because he has a deep, dark, gaping hole that needs to be filled with Jesus.
So how did you not take it personally? Like how did?
Oh my gosh, practice. I don't even know how to answer that question, because
like what made you not take that personally and go like I'm a failure, and you went to like that's his issue, I'm enough in God's eyes, and he needs to deal with Jesus and him need to deal with that.
Well, I just had to realize like I can't ultimately satisfy my husband. Like,
and that truth really seeded home for you, like on one night, over time.
Over time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Ryan struggles with lust, and Ryan has fallen short in a lot of ways. And I think I had to kind of be like, it's not me. Like I won't ever be sexy enough. I won't ever be like a supermodel enough. I won't be porn star enough. I won't be whatever it is. And it's not like these are things Ryan's looking for.
Right.
Culturally, there are things that.
So like the world BuzzFeed would say, is that kind of where you're going?
Yes, like culturally, there are pictures or versions of women that we think that men want. And so like in relationships, I used to think if I could just do this, then nothing else will matter. Like if I could just be like, if I could satisfy him in this area, then all of my other flaws, it'll be fine. But in a godly marriage,
because that's contractual. Because what you're saying is that if I can do this for him, then he'll accept me here.
Yes, then I will be enough for him.
And that's a contractual
relationship. And it can be in whatever area
and honestly,
marriage.
I think to like, let's say, I'm not going to say more liberal people, that sounds weird. Like, he should be trying to be enough for you, like in a more feministic mindset, or like, shouldn't you guys be equally enough for each other?
Yeah, and you're not going to be enough for each other. And I think that whenever people get married, speaking from experience, you fall into this ditch of disappointment because you think that you will be enough for each other.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not. You're not, and you never will be. And that is good. That is a good thing. It is okay to not be enough for your husband. It is okay to not be enough for your wife because Jesus is.
Right. Okay, so pause on that and go back to Nicole. So when you hear that, and I'm sure that obviously you've wrestled through a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like that's where you're coming from, is like you're understanding now in your singleness that you'll never be enough. Jesus has to be enough for you, and that Jesus will have to be enough for your future spouse if God so chooses to bless you with that. But what do you do with, what if you're looking down the barrel of a life of singleness?
It's hard because I think most of us want to be married.
Yeah.
It's funny that you bring that up because I've been wrestling with that a lot this week in particular.
Like, and do you want to say like the barrel? Like it's like I'm about to give you the death.
Yeah, like what if it never happens? And it's okay, like you just have to trust that. I have to trust that like, okay, so God is always good.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that God does is good.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that God works in our life is for goodness and to glorify Him. And we live to worship and praise Him and glorify Him.
Right.
And so if I am looking forward at a life of singleness, I have to trust that is good, that God is putting me on that path because the path of marriage would not be good.
But what about settling for, like, and obviously this is not the Christian way, but like the secular would say, well, why wouldn't you just find somebody that you could, get your physical needs met by, or maybe some of your emotional needs met by, and maybe they won't fit them all, and you don't want to marry them because they're, a train wreck. But why wouldn't you want to get at least some of your needs met by somebody in some way? Outside of God's will. What and clearly you're a Christian, so you're like, that makes no sense.
Okay, so let's look at my upbringing. My mom has been married 3 times.
Oh.
And it has been it's been terrible. It's had horrible effects for her. It's had horrible effects for our family. There's just a lot of trauma and emotional grossness. And I knew when I was really young that I did not want that for myself.
Okay.
And so in my heart, I know that if God is telling me, Nicole, you are going to be single for the rest of your life, you're never going to get married, I know that the alternative is that. And I'm terrified of that.
As you should be.
And I know that whatever God has planned for me is good. Is it going to be freaking hard? Absolutely. Are there going to be times when I feel lonely, maybe a little bit depressed and I'm not with someone?
Right.
Absolutely. But that's why when you're single, it's so important for you to have friends who will speak into your life and remind you how much God loves you.
So do you have that now?
I do.
Okay, who's that? Who are those people in your life?
Melanie.
Melanie is our other administrative assistant here at Wells Branch Community Church.
Yeah, Melanie's really great. My roommate Natalie is fantastic.
What are you doing for Thanksgiving?
I'm probably going home.
Okay.
I haven't seen my
is there
family in a
ever a point at which you'd say I'm not going to go spend it with my family. I want to spend it with my church family or something like that?
I've done that several times before,
have you?
actually. Yeah.
And how has that gone?
It's always been great. I spent 1 year with my friend Julie, and another one of our friends came over, and we made a seafood feast, and it was really life-giving.
Nice.
Wow.
Last year, I think I spent time with Stephanie and her family, Stephanie Huggins.
Oh, that was sweet.
Yeah, she invited me over for Thanksgiving.
Well, I think that's really special. And,
it is.
And I think it's really, I think that's, for some people, they get terrified of that.
And I don't know why that is, because
it's because they're idolizing.
Right.
Maybe,
marriage.
but the Thanksgivings, the holidays that I've spent with my friends or my church family have been so much more peaceful and life-giving.
Well, that goes without saying.
It's just so much easier to do that than to have to deal with the dysfunction of my family on the holidays.
So do you do 4 Christmases? Or no, I guess you do two Thanksgivings and 2 Christmases, or how does that work for you guys?
I do 2 I do 2 Thanksgivings, sometimes 3 Christmases, because I have an aunt who lives out in the hill country near San Marcos. And so we've done a Christmas with her, and then we'll do a Christmas with my dad, and we'll do a Christmas with my mom. Yeah. So it's usually like 2 or 3 Christmases.
Okay. All right. So yeah. All right. So I feel like kind of sort of put all this in perspective is that singleness isn't like a death sentence.
It's not.
And actually, you can enjoy it.
You really can.
And one of the things that I found is that my ministry, I've gotten to do a lot of cool things as a pastor who's married, but probably I got to lead more people to faith and galvanize more ministry as a single person. I started ministries on like 15, 20 different campuses that were.
You have
That's
so much
amazing.
time.
It was nuts. I mean,
Yeah.
and a lot of those people moved here after I did get married. But I was thinking if I could have been single a lot longer, I probably could have galvanized a way larger, big following because you have way more time. And all growing the kingdom of God is all about relationship. It's all about the number of people you can meet with. And when you decide to get married, you're saying no to thousands of people to say yes to my family of 6 of us, and which is obviously a beautiful thing and wonderful thing. I'm grateful for it, and it's really life-giving. But it is when Paul said, I'd rather you would be single like he is. What he's saying is like, I'd rather you have the gift to go do evangelism, not because you have responsibilities. God give responsibilities to a wife and to a family, not to abandon them and not to leave them emotionally vacated so that you can go do your own, your mistress of ministry. And so there's a real truth there. And so, so how is that for you? Are you getting up at like 5 a.m. every day to go do ministry all day long and then find yourself going to bed at midnight or something?
I don't think it's physically possible for me to wake up at 5
No,
a.m.
not teasing. I think that you get to enjoy life in a different way than those of us who
I
have.
had so much fun when I was single.
I do have a lot of fun.
What's the
I
most
feel
fun
like I have a
thing?
lot of fun
What was the most fun thing you did recently with a bunch of single friends?
Did recently with a bunch of single friends.
Oh, your beach
you go to Port A?
vacation. Yeah.
We did, yeah. Is that recently enough?
Sure.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. I also went.
Whenever you get married and you have children, you go to the beach once a year.
Yeah,
So
I know.
for
I
you-
mean, it was so nice to not have to.
And
worry
it's not
about
really
children.
that fun.
Yeah, it's like taking the hardest person in your world where you have everything set up for you for success and go to a place where there's nothing set up for success, only challenges.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
That's why we
Yeah.
say don't take Tyler to the beach. But go on.
So yeah, Port A was a lot of fun. That was a great trip. And recently, a couple weeks ago, went two-stepping with Natalie and a couple other
fun.
friends. And we're going again this weekend.
Oh, awesome.
So if anyone wants to come.
All right. So now, how do you do two-stepping as a single person? Do you just like pick a random or wait for a random guy to ask you, or do you go like you dance with me?
So that's a little bit of both. I'm not quite at the place where I'm just like you dance with me. I need someone to ask, but yeah, there are guys who are there who really just want to dance, and they'll just ask you to dance, and they just ask different girls to dance the whole night, and you're just dancing the whole time.
That's so fun.
It's a lot of fun.
That is fun. All right. So when are you going? Are you going to Mavericks? Where are you going?
We are going to Mavericks in Pflugerville.
Okay, fun.
Friday night at like, I don't know, like 9 probably.
Oh wow.
9 o'clock at night?
You remember?
Yeah,
Remember in
at
the old
night.
days when that was early?
Oh my gosh.
You're old.
I was literally
You are
like-
officially old.
You're starting something at 9 o'clock?
I know.
Yeah, I know. I had that reaction at first too, and Natalie was like, "Yeah, that's when everyone's there," and I'm like, "Oh well." And it was packed. We left at midnight, and it was still packed.
Yeah, I mean that was
So
Katie Warwick. Do you not remember?
It feels like a decade ago.
It was.
It was a decade ago.
All right, hey, listen, if you're dealing with singleness, we would love to hear from you. You can text us in at 737-231-0605, and we can keep talking about this forever because we'll have Katie back and we'll have Nicole back to talk about these issues of really struggling dealing with singleness from the perspective of contentment. Or you go to pastorplek.com, leave a message for us there. We would love to hear from you. Any other final thoughts, Nicole?
No.
Yeah, can be content.
Yeah, be content.
Rest in the singleness.
Rest in the singleness.
You have to
Use it for
decide to like
good.
it.
Decide. Nice.
Decide that you're going to enjoy
Yeah.
singleness.
Hey, listen, my only advice is don't look for the one, become the one. Now, from our house to yours, have an awesome week of worship.